Singing solidarity songs, members of the National Union of Electricity Employees occupy every available space in front of the Transmission Company of Nigeria to press home their demands. Amidst the songs, the chairman of the FCT chapter of the union speaks on the reason for the peaceful protest.
The board has jettisoned our condition of service. We have a condition of service that was signed by both management and the union. And that condition of service must stand. Yes. We are here to say the condition of service must stand.
Identifying with the workers, a member of the Central Executive Committee of the union enumerates their grievances.
We are surprised that after the appointment of the board, the first gift they want to give to the staff of TCN is to jettison our process and procedure, to now capture promotion in their own hand.
The workers also lament the failure of the federal government to pay the entitlement of former staff of the defunct Power Holding Company of Nigeria since December 2019.
Privatization was supposed to take place 2012. Fortunately, it didn't take place. It took place by 2013. There is 16 months abstract that, government supposed to pay. As I'm talking to you today, that 16 months has not been paid.
In a reaction to the protest, the Minister of State for Power appeals to the union to sheath their sword. A statement signed by the minister reads, "The Ministry of Power takes cognizance of your complaints therein and is committed to proffering solutions that will be acceptable to all parties concerned. May we appeal to your great union to allow us 2 weeks from date of this letter to address the issues and come up with proposals towards acceptable resolution of all issues." End of quote. The union had issued a 14-day ultimatum to the management of TCN on May the 18th, 2022, threatening to down tools if its complaints were not resolved. Following the expiration of the ultimatum, the union, in a notice signed by its general secretary, asked all members to stop work from Wednesday, August the 17th, 2022.
Thank you for staying with us. Let's have this conversation right quick with Joe Ajero, who is Deputy President of NLC and General Secretary, National Union of Electricity Employees. He joins us virtually this morning. Thanks for joining us this morning, Mr. Ajero. Well, the natural question to ask you, first of all, would be, is the strike still going to happen?
Thank you very much. Well, bearing anything this morning, the strike will commence today. Bearing any last-minute miracle, the strike will commence today.
But 2 letters emanated from the authorities, over TCN. The MD released the letter, and the Minister of State for Power also validated that letter, saying that they needed 2 weeks for TCN to do, to just sheath their swords for a bit, and then they can address these things.
Well, let me tell you the crux of the matter. The issues now are beyond TCN and even the Minister of State. There are 3 main issues, among others. One is the promotion issue, which the TCN can handle with the board. We don't have problem with that. The second one is the issue of the balance of entitlement of PSCN workers. And an agreement was reached in this direction by 2019. And the Minister of State, who has written to us now, signed that same agreement, and he had between 2019 to 2022 to have addressed it. And that agreement gave the TCN branch of the market operator the marching order to pay. And between 2019 to date, they didn't pay. And the last issue, anyway, is the issue that came out from a circular from the head of service that contravened the Power Sector Act. And we have been writing the head of service in the last 6 months for clarification on the context of his or her circular, and we didn't even receive any acknowledgement of our letters. So those are the 3 issues. The Minister of State can't speak for the head of service in this regard, never. But the Minister of State, up to this moment, should equally excuse himself if he signed that agreement on behalf of government and failed to implement it. So these are the issues. When you write President Buhari, unless any of the ministers or people under him write you back on his behalf, their competence in handling such issues may be in doubt.
So you're saying essentially that it's only the president that can intervene in this matter to give any assurance to the NUEE. But then you also said that, the 3 issues are speaking to 3 different authorities altogether. The first one.
I want you to get me clearly that I said that the TCN and its board can handle the promotion issue clearly.
Yeah.
I only said that the issue of the agreement signed in 2019, that TCN, that is market operator under TCN, was asked to pay, was signed on behalf of government by the Minister of State. And that 3 years after, the Minister of State is asking for 2 weeks. I equally say that the circular by the head of service can only be addressed by the head of service or addressed by the head of service on the intervention of probably the Minister of Labor, who has a statutory duty to intervene on such matter.
So we have an agreement. There are 3 different authorities that need to address each of these issues. But just a quick one on the interview thing. I remember that back in time, maybe in the 70s or even in the 80s, there were usually promotional exams before officers in the civil service are promoted. So what exactly is the issue with this promotional exam? Because the assumption, some would say, is to return the civil service back to what they will call the glory days, when promotion was on merit and not just at the whim of anyone.
Well, the first caveat is that, one, TCN is not the civil service, the first instance. The second one, it could be a parastatal or a public sector, but not a civil service. The second point here that we need to underline is, as we talk now, promotions are on. It's not critically on the basis of promotion. Since last week or last 2 weeks, promotion has been on. And there was no time promotion interviews have been stopped in TCN or in the then power sector. Never. The issue is not issue of promotion. The issue is that when you get to principal manager to assistant general manager, the positions are closed in. Now, if you have 200 people go for promotion interview there, you may not have 2 vacancies, or 3, or 10. And now, from inception of the organization, those areas are by appointment, either to general manager or by ED, or by those maybe who are covering duty. That's the line we are talking of now. People have reached their level, and then in most instances, it's even the ministry that appoints a general manager, or the board that appoints a general manager or whatever. And now that has taken place, promotion interviews have taken place, and people have continued their business. And this is in the career part. And automatically, the board said everybody should be, if you are going to call everybody for promotion interview, there should be vacancy There should be a place for them, and we have to sit down, to jointly, review what we have jointly signed. It's not for the whims and caprices of any of the parties, either the level of the management of TCN. And there should be management function and board function. Board can't just come on board and say what you had with the union is null and void, and they nullify it. Those are the issues we are trying to explain. And this board you are seeing is given the mandate to improve the power, the power situation in Nigeria. That's the marching order they were given. And they are busy, battling with condition of service or whatever, which will be due for review probably by December, and they can come up with all this.
Well, you also made it clear that you have written various letters over the months, the weeks and months gone past to address each of these issues by the different authorities. So when you say only a miracle can stave off this strike, what do you mean? What kind of intervention are you expecting, since there are 3 authorities to address the 3 different issues that are the crux of the matter?
Well, I don't know the intervention they want to do. Ordinarily, in matters like this, meetings are held or letters are, sent to the people complaining that this is the situation. We wrote about 3 letters for clarification. Our letters didn't start with ultimatum. Of course, we are too big for that. We understand more than that. And when it was not forthcoming, we gave the first ultimatum, which expired. This ultimatum we are trying to carry out now has expired in the last 1 month, and we have been appealing. We have met with TCN, Transmission Company of Nigeria, and they told us it's beyond their powers, clearly, in 2 separate meetings. And we pleaded with them, please, can you help us reach out to the people who is within their powers? And up to now, nothing has happened. So whatever intervention, there's no intervention could come through responding to the issues raised if you don't want to see the face of the people concerned, or inviting the people for a meeting, or making time out to address the issues, and it ends there, just at the level of grievance, not dispute.
Isn't that the reason the minister asked for 2 weeks, just 2 weeks, to address the issues?
The Minister of State cannot address the issue raised by the head of service. Cannot, without sounding immodest. The ones that he addressed 3 years ago, after 7 years of those issues, those issues have been pending, there was a strike action. The Speaker of the House of Rep intervened personally with other ministers of labor and power at the National Assembly. That matter was resolved, and they agreed to implement within 2-3 months. And that is the issue that is coming up now, 3 years after. We can't be deceived again. What manner of 2 weeks is he talking about?
I mean, since you've talked about the fact that letters have been written by, the union over the months and all of that, I'm just wondering if there wasn't any communication. At least someone must have received the letter and certified that they received the letter. From the feelers that you get from each of the authorities involved in this situation, what kind of feelers did you get before you released the report yesterday, or was just dead silence from the 3 quarters?
Well, in all fairness to the Ministry of Labor, somebody sent me a text while we were at the ILO conference in Geneva that the minister said, we are in receipt of your letter and we'll look into it. Text message, I didn't know the person up to this moment. I assumed that to be the minister's position. That between May and June. I kept quiet. We sent another ultimatum, and we copied the Minister of Labor. We write all the agencies, SGF, even the security agencies. We sent another letter of ultimatum after a long time. I got another text from that same source that the minister said that, can you forward a copy of the letter from the office of the head of service? I forwarded it. That was, and the ultimatum expired over a month ago. Up to this moment, no comment, nothing, no correspondence, no meeting, nothing. We can't wait indefinitely, please.
Well, Comrade Ajero, you say that the Minister of State's letter cannot address issues concerning the head of service and the Ministry of Labor. So if that were the case, does it mean that the letter and the appeal from the ministry counts for nothing? Because Labor has to make a point to those other two agencies concerned.
Well, we had already responded to the letter by the Minister of State Power, and he has received it and acknowledged it, where we stated our views on the contents of his letter. That one is not in doubt, and nobody here that understands, power relations will tell you that when a head of service issues a circular, a Minister of State, will call for 2 weeks. Or when a Minister of State signs agreement by himself, after 3 years, he will call for 2 weeks. Those bases are not, and we have a substantive minister in that ministry, who is there, and why the agreement is signed before has not been implemented is not known to us. And all the letters we have been writing have been addressed to the minister of power, the senior minister in that sector, and nothing has happened. And as these things are happening up to today, hello.
Do you mind sharing with us what your response was to the minister?
Well, in the response, we thanked him so well for doing the letter to us, and asked him that ordinarily he should excuse himself, having been the author of the agreement in December 2019, none of which has been implemented, and that ordinarily he should not be the person asking for 2 weeks. If in the first place 7 years was not enough, and there was a strike action which it attracted the attention of the National Assembly, and after 3 years again it's not addressed. We equally urged him, to tell us whether he can address issues raised by the minister, raised by the head of service of the Federation on this issue, or whether he has the mandate of the head of service to address this issue on her or his behalf. And he didn't get back to us up to this month. That's our last correspondence.
Because, I mean, I'm not sure he's responded to you yet because the communication just happened. Has any response come through from the ministry, by the way?
No further response apart from that. But the Minister of Labor last
night... Would it have been a bad idea if, for instance, you or Labor decides, all right, well, the ministry has written, Nigerians may not have been aware of our correspondence over time, but now that we've given this notice, we've picketed the offices, Nigerians are aware that this is looming. Now that they've written, in good faith, let us sheath our swords, go listen to the ministry, and then make our point so that Nigerians and everyone can indeed see that, look, we're doing what we can to stave off any further challenges on the people.
Well, yeah, you talked about good faith, and he that equally goes to equity goes with clean hands. You can't talk of good faith and probably maintaining equity when you have a soiled bag hand. You have an agreement for 3 years that is in your hand, apparently because you are the Minister of State, and the substantive minister there who should have acted on that didn't. And as we talk now, the substantive minister is equally keeping mute on this issue, and you are asked again to do a letter.
All right, I think we're lost, comrade. We'll just see how we can get that back. But it's a matter that when these kind of issues come up, because we're just about to get across to him concerning the concerns that some Nigerians have on this particular matter. We're not sure if we'll have him back at the moment, but when he does, the thing is, Nigerians thought, look, why is the union going on this strike now when they say that, look, in some areas, in a lot of areas, they see a lot more stability in power generation over the last few weeks, contrary to what they've seen before. And they thought, these are conditions of service for union workers. And with due respect to them, they think, are they going on strike on personal condition of service so that every other Nigerian suffers because of this?
And you know, Chairman, those were the questions that were bordering my mind as to, they obviously know the power that they wield in the power sector. And we talk about power figuratively and also in terms of, you know, electronically speaking, or, you know, they know what power they wield and how that is a live wire of the Nigerian economy. We're certainly not where we ought to be with power supply. People, you know, businesses are still suffering under the weight of that. We cannot count how many times the national grid has gone under this year, and that largely is where the TCN is responsible. But these sort of cases, I mean, where you have a sector, because the TCN, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, is the only one still solely in the hands of the federal government. It makes a case for decentralization of power, because the whole of the country cannot be held at the mercy of workers, I mean, of a group of workers. That certainly is. Yes, there are welfare issues, and I believe that those welfare issues can be tackled. Yes, in many instances, government itself, food drags, the bureaucracy is such a behemoth that it takes forever and ever. I mean, you just heard him talk about how the TCN is involved, the head of service is involved, the ministry is involved. It takes forever for these different parts to synchronize in some instances, and workers are suffering as a result of that. But it cannot be further justification to impose further suffering on all the other parts of the country. So there are many questions to be answered in that regard as to whether that's what they really want at the end of the day, because they're saying nothing short of a miracle will stop the strike today. And that's not the kind of, again, with due respect to all of them and their concerns, not the kind of posturing that Nigerians want to see, or the person on the other side wants to see coming into a negotiation table, much as, I mean, both of them have got challenges why they allowed it fester up until this point. But many also will have loved to see issues on that agenda or demand, such as expand the transmission capacity such that we can transmit a lot more than we are currently transmitting. Because if we are able to generate 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 megawatts, can we transmit it and not have it stranded? Have we gotten to that stage yet? So what happens to those kind of issues if they're going to go on strike for or protest for those kind of issues? But in the meantime, you heard the man. He says the strike will go on today. But what I'd love to just get from him to find out, look, if something happens today, if those agencies or those other ministries give them a call, can they suspend this? Because it will have huge implications on the economy, which I'm not sure is what labor or electricity workers want. Because at the end of the day, it comes back to see how does it make them look. Ayo.
It's a catch-22 if you ask me, Chamberlain and Maokwe. I don't know where we're going with this, but we know it's bad enough already. Should it ever get any worse than this, that's something that we don't want. But hey, okay, I understand that we have Mr. Ajero back. Well, just one quick question that my colleagues raised earlier, if you can speak to it very, very quickly. You are aware of the importance of electricity. You know the implication of TCN going on strike. Have you considered the hardship, the untold hardship it's going to have on every Nigerian, well, most Nigerians, especially the most vulnerable, small businesses, people who can't afford the high cost of fuel and all of that? What exactly are the thoughts that's on your mind? I understand that we've lost the audio. We can't take him. I really wish we could take that so that we can take that as well. Joe Ajero is Deputy President, Nigeria Labour Congress, and he's also General Secretary, National Union of Electricity Employees. He joined us virtually from Lagos. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Ajero. More issues to come after this break. Please stay with us.